Good morning. Good morning. Happy full moon. And it's been such a phenomenally crazy week that I don't even know where to start. You would laugh. I have 18 tarot cards, 2 pages of notes. And at the same time, it's just like, oh, okay, so let's talk about what this week has been about. Okay. And we're going to sort of guide through it and hold it and then go through some tips. So thank you for being here. Um, Pass it around, like and share it, because I think this is really good information for this week. So we're going to start with the fact that I'm a water sign, so I'm always going to start with the moon, right? So the full moon was at 4:17 a.m. Mountain Time this morning. Last night it was really full. I put some pictures up on Facebook because we're in a lot of fires around here in Montana. So it's just bright orange and it was fabulous, right? This full moon is the third moon in Capricorn. It went full, new, and now full again in Capricorn at like the 29 point degrees, because later this morning it actually shifts right over to Aquarius. So it's like trying to take off the last bit of scum on top of us. That's the only word that kept coming up was scum, right? Because Capricorn's a cardinal sign. Capricorn's leadership. Capricorn is leadership in the physical element, right? So it's when we're on this earth, how do we, and I like the term that Deborah O'Connor uses, which is how do we become a leader and also a safe harbor for anyone who's going through all of this, right? Ah, and so how do we show maturity? And how do we show nobility? And how do we present with integrity? Because Saturn rules Capricorn, right? Saturn rules Capricorn, and so this Saturn is in its own house, and Saturn is about discipline and responsibility and discernment, and it's a stoic. I like how Iris on Madrona Pulse calls it the grandfather. Like the one that you respect. So Saturn is there, right? And then we also have Chiron in a complete square during that full moon. And Chiron, for those of you who followed me, it's our deepest wound in the identification of our gifts, how we were trained, how we chose to be trained in this world for who we are and what we do, right? So we have this moon. So let's just put that out there. And then, I love this card for a lot of reasons. This is Osho Zen 7 of Wands, 7 of Fire. And if we were to sort of look at each one of these little candles that this character is juggling and trying to pay attention to, that sort of feels like what was going on this week, doesn't it? Like, how many things can you expect me to hold? I'm dealing with my Chiron shit. I've got this full moon that won't stop pulling at me. And I notice that over and over again, no matter who I talk to, they're like, this is the biggest moon. Oh my gosh, and I think it's true. So then we're going to add onto one of these is the solar flares, which is, in each one of these could be a solar flare every single day, depending on how you want to look at it. Because we've had high C's and low M's, just boom, 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 boom. So it's tap, 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 tower, shake it off and see what falls. Boom, boom, boom. Kind of like the way you chisel off concrete, or you try to get debris, mud, and rust off of old appliances or old. Like, I have this great cast iron pot that has rust and it has some buildup on it. And it's like soak, scrape, shake it off. And it seems like that's what the solar flares are doing. They're trying to get this stuff off of us, right? It's because there are anywhere between 8 and 16 sunspots on the sun at this point that's just releasing constantly. We haven't had an X since last Sunday. So, so what we're able to do is it's asking us to go into self-discipline, which is, are you really paying attention to anything when you're up here doing this, right? How are you going to have the courage to go, I'm going to have to put a lot of these down, right? And some of it might be people that I've been carrying, that I've been, and this is you, right? People people I've been carrying and making sure, and they just are completely unaware of the effort it takes for you to keep this process going. Some of it may be the war and the thoughts that you have in your head constantly with all of these imaginary stories. Some of this may be just the gloomy depression, anxiety that you put in your head, right? Um, we could go on. We could go on, but I'm just going to keep holding this guy up here because to me, so we have a full moon and we have these solar flares that just won't yield, right? So then, here in the United States, we have some really interesting things like heat waves, power outages. Here in Montana, we're on, I think it's day 7 or 8 of 94 to 97 degree weather, which means that the forests are getting really hot and the pine needles are drying and everything around us is burning. And we're now in fire alerts, no open fires, all of that stuff, which happens every summer. And I think our smoke out here is about 3 weeks early. So having heat on top of that is really hard, right? We've had some digital anomalies, whether our cell phone is working, our computer, our Wi-Fi goes in or out, really different things, right? And then, let's look at the solar flares that that caused radio blackouts in different parts of the world, right? And then we have an earthquake in Chile. So again, we have all of these rumblings around, right? And then we're going to hit on the big ones, right? Which is, I'm going to go backwards. So we have the full moon last night or this early this morning on Sunday at 4:17 a.m., right? We've had these constant solar flares. We've had a whole week of tornadoes, heat waves, power outages where you couldn't get your air conditioning on in a heat wave, right? So then Friday, we have a software outage, because CrowdStrike went down, which meant that airports, banks, retail, anything on digital was completely shut out for a few hours. Now, if you're traveling or if you're trying to open and run a store, or I was at the airport helping a friend out and picking up a guy who's a pilot, and he was like, the airport's crazy, right? And then we're going to go even further back to Monday, where there was the shooting, the attempted assassination on Trump, right? And so all these reactions on both sides and all these memes that are just full of hatred and judgment and stirring the pot of agitation. So we have all of this going on. Oh, and I also want to put in there all of this discussion about Biden, whether he's going to stay in presidency or not. So again, politics it doesn't matter at this point because this is just another symptom of what's going on when all of this is going up. Because we're feeling tremendous agitation. We're feeling pressure. We have inconveniences happening. There's changes right or left, right? And when this happens, I like the way that this is the mental version of change, which is I can't go back and I can't go forward and I don't know what to do. So I'm just stranded right there in the middle, hanging and waiting, or I'm being completely buried under all of the mental, emotional, physical stressors, right? Because what I want to pay attention to is that this is our outer world. This is not our inside. These are things coming at us. Because what we're really talking about is changes are happening in our world. They're happening in our physical world, in Capricorn. And this is where we step in for leadership. So we weave all of these together, right? And I'm going to say that these changes have been coming for a long time because I wrote a book called The Indigo Assignment. You can find the link down below, which is a seeded frequency that came in mid to late 70s, which was about breaking down these institutions that have been designed to hold us in place. And now we're sort of breaking them apart. And we're going to go through that in a minute too. So our external world is rattling, And we're at choice points. We're at a choice point almost hourly, minute by minute. What do I want to do? I open up my phone and there's some horrendous meme making fun of this political party or that political party, or saying something really hateful about someone who's looking for a place to live. We have choice points every hour on the hour about who am I? What do I stand for? What can I do to guide myself forward? How do I navigate through all of this chaos when there's debris falling? And so I brought in, where is it? Oh, there they are. These two. Within the Thoth deck, this is the Princess of Swords. So she's standing on a collapsed building, looks like, and she's waving her sword at like the thoughts, the words, the pattern, get back. And so she's sort of bringing apart these institutions. And this is from a mental perspective, which is I need to fight it, right? And you take in the prince at the same time. And what he's doing is he's cutting the strings of all of the minions that are trying to pull him forward, taking him where he doesn't want to go. So this is like, how do I navigate through this chaos? I love these two cards for us right now, because what it says is how do I do this? And then when we go over to the Princess of Swords, of Wands, I love this. She's butt ass naked. Her hair and the energy is pulling her up, and she's so confident that of who she is, that she's got this tiger by the tail. There's the word for this card is no fear. Absolutely no fear. Okay. So how do we navigate through our truth without fear? How do I stay conscious in an unconscious world when it's so hard? So that's where we're at right now. And I'm going to switch my notes so you can see, because what we're really looking at is global institutions, the institutions of family, religion, education, politics, finances. And these are being rocked because they've held us in place for thousands of years. We fought wars over who gets to control these things. We are still fighting wars over this. So we are here to witness them crumbling. We are here to be a part of this. We are here to be this. Okay, this is what we're here to do. So how do we navigate when it starts to bump around and get really uncomfortable? So I have 5 tips for you, and we'll go through them. So the first one, I love what Lee Harris said this morning, which is, I think he said it yesterday, I read it this morning, is to take one tiny step in the direction of progress, right? Give yourself a conscious direction to begin, whether it's just like, oh, I'm finally making a decision. I'm not going to put keep that person on my friends list because they post really ugly things, right? So I'll give you an example. My car died about a month and a half ago. And there was this like, oh, woe is me. What am I supposed to do in this grand state of Montana without a car? And then I thought, well, I have a bike. So I went to storage and I got my bike and I cleaned it all up and got the tires going again and put some packs on it. And so the tiny step was, I'm going to be a bike rider this summer. And it was hard because I was a little out of shape. I have a heavy bike and it's hot out. And I was like, but people ride their bikes all the time. So how do I become a bike rider? So it's like that one little step, go get the bike. And let it fall into place. Let it start. So number 1, take a step in the direction of progress. Number 2, release, ignore, or quiet your internal reactions that like, oh no, or all of those voices of the people that around you, the people you think matter, right? The people who may be, telling you, you don't know what you're doing. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? You can't quit your job right now. You've been married for 16 years, whatever, right? Because they're the ones who are less likely to change. You're the one who's changing. So you refuse to give anyone outside of your field power over you, right? So ignore, release, and quiet that external. That's that nobility, that integrity of Capricorn, right? Is that, yeah, you guys have a lot of opinions. I'm still not going to do that. Okay. Number 3, Expand your observer, your owl. I love these two pictures. Magenta Pixie talks about owls right now, and I think owls are our observers. I like this one because it's just absolutely, and it's like, be the hunter, not the hunted. Go after what you need to see. Go collect the details. And I like this one too, which is, let the truth be told. Here's this owl saying there's certain things out there that we want to start to pay attention to, right? So we want our observer who sees and notices all, sees the patterns and shifts. We want you to sort of notice that your consciousness is starting to build and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do that anymore. And you refuse to shut it down. You become the collector of changes and shifts and good things. So expand your observer and become the collector, right? And number 4, deepen your self-care. Absolutely. Whether it's water, we've talked about this, water, mineral, salt baths, walks under the moon. I was out all night last night under the moonlight, eating really good food for yourself, getting lots of sleep. This is really bold when you're in a family system that doesn't necessarily do this, or a work environment. And then they don't value your boundaries and self-care. So this is where your integrity, your Capricorn in the physical world, goes into leadership and mastery, right? Self-mastery. It's beautiful. And then number 5, last one, is to have compassion, because consciousness is an inside job. It arrives when we're ready for it. Right? I'm wondering if it's, it's consciousness is being able to show up and take your time, regardless of what's going on around outside of you, regardless of the zingers and the waves of discontent, hatred, all of that, and to stay in who you are and realize everybody's going to wake up to their own consciousness at their own pace. And you do you, and you have compassion for yourself because it's hard, and you have compassion for those around you. So thank you for joining me. I love the comments going down here. And Zaza's like, I couldn't wait for today. And I was like, I've been waiting since Friday to talk about all of this. So thank you. And I will see you next Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.